Welcome to Pagan Coffee Talk. If you enjoy our content, please consider donating and following our socials. Now, here are your hosts, Lady Alba and Lord Knight.
All right. So we're going to talk about one of the phenomena that I think a lot of pagans
go through.
Yeah, which is, why do strangers, literal strangers, people that I do not know and I have never met before, either find themselves confiding in me
on some matter,
telling me
their life story,
things, or just kind of being a little drawn to us.
Yes.
And I see it with children too.
Yeah.
Babies especially. It is
because I remember we went to a gather. It was the first one you've ever went to. Mm-hmm. And we were walking around and you kept on noticing one woman kept on following us everywhere we went.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, some pagans will sometimes say things like, why am I a crazy magnet? And I'm like, is that what it is? Is it really? Well, okay. So
what are we doing here? Are we putting off some pheromones or something?
Yeah, right. What do you think is going on?
I think people pick up on something. You pick up senses on people.
Sure.
When you first meet them.
What is the thing, though? What do you think is...
Well, that's like me trying to define gaydar.
Okay. Well, this might be a very short episode then. I don't know.
I think there's something in our aura that people automatically are pulled to each other because there's something there you need.
I think it's one of a handful of possibilities.
Okay.
One thing that I think is happening is it is residual energy from ritual space.
Okay.
It is from circle itself.
All right.
There is...
I like this idea.
It's on us.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
We got that stink on us.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Kinda. You can't fully... And the more you've done it, the more you've been in it, the more exposed to it you've been. Yes, there is a piece of it that remains. And as a result of what circle represents, what it is, what that space is meant to be, it makes people feel very comfortable.
Telling you stuff.
Yes, suddenly talking about things that probably they wouldn't otherwise. There's a little bit of a kind of truth serum to it.
Right.
Right? We cannot lie in circle. We cannot, you just don't. You can't. It's a very soul-bearing sort of experience. So I think that that's part of what happens. The other is, and this is just my personal theory, I think that like attracts like with certain kinds of psychic ability and other senses. And I think sometimes these folks maybe have a little bit of an extra ability within them. It may be untapped. It might not even be something they necessarily recognize.
Or even aware of.
But they recognize it in us.
Right.
And it makes them very comfortable. And in some instances, I think on the surface, we end up going, oh, this person is a little nutty.
But you sort of get roped into conversations that about halfway through them, you're like, I don't need to be in this. I see where this is going. And you're not, no.
But in some cases, what I have found is that when that person walks away and we're maybe a little bit judgy and thinking, oh boy, they're actually walking away going, oh my God, I can't believe I just said all that.
I know.
I can't believe I just
Well, let's think about
that.
Well, let me ask you this. Coming up in this, was there ever that person you've run across to that you had that connection with that you just suddenly bared your soul for no reason?
I think, well, a little. Sometimes. I think what I'm more prone to doing, and as I've gotten older, I just go with it. I don't even question it anymore. I will have encounters that may be very short. They may be very encapsulated, but somehow very meaningful. And it does not even faze me to basically look at a complete stranger and go, I love you. Take care. You have like, and hug them and mean it and have a very quick, affectionate bond, knowing that I may never see that person again. And it's okay. But there is a mutual, just soul to soul in that moment, love. And then we walk away and it's totally fine and everybody's cool with it. And it happens. It's like, it's a very strange thing. I have had it happen in stores, retail shops. I've had it happen in medical situations.
In the middle of my office at work. Like, you're like, I mean, why?
But see, it doesn't bother me. I think it used to more than it does now.
It used to bother me in certain circumstances. If I was at work and somebody just started to do this is not the proper.
Right. Absolutely. I think I've just kind of gotten over it. I don't even care anymore about whether it's appropriate or not. I just roll with it. And I go, why not? We often talk about love at first sight, but that doesn't mean it has to be romantic in nature.
No.
I can look at a puppy. Like your dog. I do it all the time, right? With animals. I will pick up a puppy and go, I love you. Oh my God, I love you so much. And I mean it. I mean it, like down to my soul.
Yes.
I love this animal that I have just met. Why can't that apply to a person? Of course it can. And I think that when you have two emotionally intellectual people who have that shared experience, yeah, it's perfectly. Here, I'll give you an example. This was a fun one that I saw at. I was at a concert last summer. And there were two dudes, and I'm calling them dudes because they were dudes, like they were bros. Okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah, in every sense. They were arm in arm, dancing together and singing. And I mean, they were having so much fun. I stopped watching what was happening on stage. And I was watching them. They were a better show than what was going on stage. And the person I was with, we both immediately, we were like, these two are incredible.
Yeah.
They were hugging each other. They were kissing each other, like, but not, and again, not romantically. It was very platonic. It was very much a friendship thing. And at one point, I couldn't take it anymore. And I tapped one of them on the shoulder and I said, I just want you to know you and your friend have been the highlight of my night. And he stops for a second and he thinks, and then he looks at me and he goes, I just met him. And I was struck speechless. I was like, what? He goes, I just met him tonight. He's like, we just happened to be in, and I'm like, okay. So clearly there was a little bit of alcohol fueling this situation, but I was just like, how wonderful is that? These two might never speak ever again.
No.
It was just chance. They had seats next to each other. They were both there by themselves. They had a great time. They took 1 million pictures. That's it. And they're just going to walk away, but they're going to be left with this memory, this beautiful
memory of this
connection.
one time.
This one time with this one guy who I met at this concert, and we had such a fantastic time together. And I'm like, that's beautiful. And I think that honestly, that's more of what we need.
Oh God, yes.
Like, I mean, imagine if we made those kinds of connections, or we were open to those kinds of connections more regularly.
Well, unfortunately, in our society, everybody's
stranger danger.
No, people are more worried about what everybody else perceives them as.
Well, that too.
All right.
That too.
If I act this way, then
of course. But I think that's getting better. I think that is improving a little bit with the younger generations. I mean, these two were easily a good 10 years younger than me. And that's what I mean. They just didn't give a damn. No. They were like, we are just two dudes and we are having a great time. And I mean, they were acting like children. But again, in the best way possible. They weren't being obnoxious. They weren't, they weren't being disrespectful to the people around them. It was just joy. And I'm like, okay, but to me, it's like what happens. I mean, I remember, as a kid, like, you would get thrown into a group of children you didn't know.
No.
Right? Go play. Okay. And we would.
I mean, we were dropped off at pools and places like that, and we were around kids we knew nothing about.
And we would make a day friend. You might only have that friend for that one day. And it was okay. And we loved it. And like, we may or may not remember them now, or we might have like a vague memory. But then when we're adults, we stop doing that for some weird reason. Why?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Actually, I find the older I am, the less people I talk to when I'm out and about.
Yes. However, there is an irony to this. Until you're old enough that you are put into a community center or an environment with other people
or
your age.
you see that special status to where old people have to where in the world they can say whatever they want.
Yes. And then you put a bunch of older people together and it becomes go play.
Yes.
Yeah. And you make a bridge partner or you play cards, right? And it circles back again, but it's acceptable. It's a very bizarre thing, but
Well, see, I've never thought of it out that way, but that doesn't make any sense.
I know, but in our formidable years, we don't do that, but we should. Now, kids crack me up because I feel like kids look at, and I've seen this, initiated members of craft, pagans with a very strong presence, man. Kids will just look at us like we are an alien in the best way.
Yes.
Enamored.
All right. We ooze candy or something. They
are just like, wow. And they get a little bit, and they reach for us. They try to interact with us.
I mean, and if it's at somebody's home or something, these kids are on top of you.
Yes. Now, if it's out casually in public, it all depends on the parent. Because I've had situations where, the parents are like, nope. Just grab the kid and kind of run away against stranger danger. And then there's been others where, sometimes the parents are like, oh, yeah, wow, she really likes you. And I'm like, that's cool. She's cute. Yeah.
I have some strange child touching me for some reason.
It's okay. I'm all right. That's
this
fine.
Is life.
I would take a bullet for you too. It's okay. No worries. Yeah, but it is
a very strange phenomena, and it does seem to be very
universal
in the pagan community about people talking about this.
Yes, the only time it upsets me, I will tell you, the only time I get bothered by it is when you touch me.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Because I have had countless experiences where people I do not know want to touch me. And I'm like, what the hell? And and I'm not talking about...
You're not talking about that tapping somebody on the shoulder to get their attention or anything.
I'm not talking about circle settings. I'm not talking about gathers. I'm not talking about, people tapping you. I'm talking about running their hands down me, stroking me, petting me. I'm like, why are you petting me? I'm not a cat. That one always weirds me out. And here's the crazier thing.
What's worse is the other person seems to be doing it so subconsciously.
Yes, they're unaware. They're completely unaware of the fact that they're doing it. It's like they're compelled to do it. It's always people of the same sex too. Like for me, very rarely is it a man. It's usually women.
Funny, for me, it's always women.
Okay. But I think maybe that's because women are a little bit more... And
the strange is, and I can get a little bit more specific. It always seems to be my arm. It's never anything else.
It's stroking arm, shoulder, or back. And I'm like, why? What is happening? And it depends. Like, there's been a handful of situations, like, in and around COVID was rough. I was like, don't touch me. Please do not touch me. I don't know what is going on right now. But yeah, I think it's because, honestly, men are much more aware that you just don't do that. You just don't touch a stranger. That's how you get punched.
Right.
But women they're less fearful, but it still doesn't make it any stranger, because sometimes I can see it coming and I will dodge it.
Oh, no. I've sat there and done that and looked down as they're doing it, and they're going, I don't know why in the world I'm even doing it.
I'm so sorry. That's
thinking.
not appropriate. I shouldn't have. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Or is it just us?
I don't know. And sometimes, when it's students, it makes a little more sense. There's more of that familiar contact. Pagans are not, we stroke one another. We are a bit like, dogs in a little pack. We'll nuzzle. That's fine. But we know each other. And at the very least, we're in an environment where it's more accepted. It's just not some random person on the street, for God's sake. Yeah. I had one recently. I had a woman in a restaurant. She was, it was so strange. She was carrying a bunch of bags because she was clearly there to go to a birthday party or something. And she put them down to touch me. And I remember sidestepping her at the hostess and going, please don't, what is why are you? Yeah. And my waitress took pity on me and got me to a table immediately. Cause I was like, what just happened? She's like, I have no idea what just took place there, but
and why?
Let's get you away from her. I was like, okay.
Now the ones that really upset me are the ones that really sit there and they expect you to give them an answer.
Oh yeah. Why? I don't know.
And then normally my stance on that is I don't know you well enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm I'm not Buddha. I can tell you that, but I don't know.
I'm not sure if I should or shouldn't give advice at that point.
No, it's interesting. If I get an inkling, if there's something clearly that makes me believe that person is pagan or practices craft, I may say I'm a high priestess, and then they go, oh, okay. Hey. And it clicks and it makes sense to them. But others, I just sort of go, I don't know, shrug my shoulder. So, but just, be on the lookout. It'll happen. Yeah.
More coffee?
Gird your loins. Yeah.
Gird your loins.
So, it's almost time for the Renaissance Festival.
Yay.
Yeah. And for some reason you want to talk about ye old English. So we're going to go there.
Well, the reason I want to talk about it is because younger generations, it seems to be harder and harder for them to understand the old English.
Well, of course. I mean,
because are you with me?
I mean, yes and no. I go, okay, look at Shakespeare, right?
Right.
So when I was a kid, I didn't understand it. It took but now that I'm older,
you understand.
I can. But still, there are some things that I'm like, what the hell does that mean? And I have to Google it. So,
but we have all this language and a lot of our rituals and a lot of our documents, and you read the Charge of the Goddess, it's got it all in there.
But I don't see the Charge as Old English. Because the Charge was written in the 60s, 70s?
Right.
So I don't see that as Old English. I see it as poetry.
All right. Well, what about what we got in some of our more rituals we can't talk about?
Yeah. There is. Me personally, I've always wondered how common is that?
Right.
Is it all traditionalists? Is it all groups that use? I don't know. I really don't feel like I have an answer there. I think I think this is one of the big differences between the modern groups and neo-pagans and traditionalists and all of that. I don't know.
Well, let me ask you, by leaving it in, does it make it more special where, trying to use a different language, right in Theban instead, because you got to concentrate on it more to cast a spell?
I am a big believer in I need no finely worded rite to know my seed.
Right.
I don't.
And I'm just talking about the technical altering consciousness.
But that's my point. I think it depends on the individual.
Okay.
I think if somebody is comfortable with it and they believe it offers them something more ritualistic that allows them to tap into a greater source of magic, meditation, whatever it might be, great, go for it. Same thing with using Latin, same thing with using foreign language, all of that.
Welsh or anything like that.
Absolutely. But I also believe that if someone struggles with those things or has a mental block or a reason why they, maybe it's dyslexia, maybe it's right, whatever it is, if there's something that prevents them from using that effectively and instead it causes them anxiety,
you shouldn't use it.
Absolutely not. Right? I mean, one of the things that always gets me is whenever we are dealing with neophytes and firsts who are learning to cast circle. I mean, hopefully at first you know how to cast circle, but I don't want somebody coming into circle nervous.
No.
But yet it happens. It happens all the time. And we're constantly having to work with that. Now, again, the larger the group, the easier that is to dissipate and work with. But I mean, when you have someone who's new, I don't know anybody who, like the way we do things anyway, once you've been initiated to first, the very next ritual is yours. You are performing it. You are you are a newly minted witch.
This is the point.
Yes. You need to now get your butt in circle and do the things. But that person is terrified.
Yes.
And they make mistakes and they end up it's bad.
And
bad.
I know we sit there and we explain to them, look,
we've all done it.
We've all done it. We're all in this place. What stops it is you doing ritual.
Right. And I liken it to doctors. You have interns and you have residents. An intern is still a doctor. They have a fucking medical degree. They have done in theory, they know how to do all the things. But the reason they have to complete hours is
they need experience.
Exactly. And a resident is there to oversee them should they get themselves into a situation they don't know how to get out of or something catastrophic happens. Same thing. We don't simply let a bunch of firsts go run a ritual. That would be ridiculous. You have to have other more experienced people in the space to help them to pick up the slack, to fix the mistakes, etc. And often to just calm them the hell down. You're fine. You've got this. Pick up the scalpel. Yeah.
Yes, and it's hard for us not to get tickled with the nervousness because we know it's just
we've been there. We've done it. We have all done it. But yes, if something about a ritual or in a ritual is going to cause that, I think that's setting yourself up for failure. And then I also say, okay, Old English to me, any language, I don't care what language it is, language, if you don't understand what you're saying, shut your freaking mouth. The number of times I have seen phrases and I'll be honest, like some of them, I'm like, I don't even know if this is a language.
See, this is what kills me is I see it on TV during these rallies and these protests. People will be chanting stuff and they don't know what they're chanting.
Well, but I pick up any spell book.
Right.
You are going to find something. And again, I question sometimes if it's even a language. Is it a slang? I don't know what that is. And yet it's part of the ritual.
Right.
I'm not saying those words if I don't know what that is, because how do I put intent into something
you don't understand?
I don't understand. Then I'm just going through motions, right? So that's hugely problematic. And a lot of text with spell work and old ritual work, we don't know if it's like it could be a dialect or a bastardization of another language. It could be something that was purely made up magically? I mean, I don't know sometimes.
Do you believe language itself is magical?
Yes.
Just by...
Words have power, but they have power in, the meaning that we put into them. Yeah, like, look, it's funny we're talking about this because I just had a Latin phrase. These are the only words on my body for all my tattoos. I'm glad
you told me it was Latin. I was about to say.
Yeah, because you're going, what the hell is that? For all my tattoos, this is the only words on my body. Actually, that's not true. There's one other word, but it's the word joy, and it's also a name. But acta non verba. It is the Latin phrase for deeds, not words.
Exactly.
Yeah, actions, not words.
Right.
And there's a giggle that I get out of that phrase for a number of reasons, but primarily, yes, it's my commitment to, my reminder of, by your deeds you shall be known. You know, I just didn't want a sentence.
No.
So I went with this. But that's its point. And yes, I do believe there's power in that. But the only thing that gives it power is us.
Yes.
It's our belief in it, or what, I mean, look, we've had this conversation before, like bad words. A word is just a word.
Right.
By itself, it means nothing. But yet we as people, right, we put so much into words. There's bad words, there's good words. It's like, oh boy.
Right.
Why are we passing judgment on them? There really isn't, but meaning is different.
Right.
Yeah. It's the meaning that the words represent. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm like, look, if you like your old English, go for it.
If you have problems with it, take it out.
Don't use it. Yeah. I mean,
it's not a sacred cow.
No. That's an interesting point. I get what you're saying there. Yeah.
Right. It is not a sacred cow. It's something we can't mess with. I think some people might take it as sacred, and it needs to stay that way.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, especially if you compare it to Christianity and the fundamentalists for the Bible, right? It's the word, the book. Like, this is it. This is how it is. We don't change it. We don't deviate from it. That I get. I don't believe we operate that way.
Okay.
I think that we have to make those changes.
We have to allow because if we can quit understanding what we're teaching here, it doesn't help.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if your group is confused and doesn't understand what the heck is being said or why, stop.
Please.
Immediately.
And if you are a student, you are confused, stop them and ask them, what?
Yes, because I can't imagine being in ritual space. Like, if one person is like, look, if I'm a guest, right, at another group.
Right.
Sure, there may be something that makes me go, huh? But I will ask about it later. And I would also assume that my lack of knowledge is not affecting what everyone else is doing, as long as they're all aware and on the same page. But if you're looking at a bunch of blank faces going, what the hell is going on? Stop everything. Yeah. Because until you get everyone back on the same page, there's problems. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the point? If we believe that what we're doing and our workings are a collective experience, how can you keep someone from the experience? I mean, look, what if someone in circle is deaf? Then what?
What you doing?
Yeah. How are you
communicating,
including
that person
so that they are aware and, again, able to participate?
We just recently got a new student who happens to be visually impaired.
Correct.
And we're having to figure some things out along the way to make sure she feels completely included on what in the world's going on.
Yes, but I do think blind and deaf are very different when you're talking about language.
Right.
So, but that's a big deal.
Yes.
And I mean, I personally have never given this as much thought as I think we are right now. But yeah, it is a good conversation to have. If you have someone who's hearing impaired, what are you doing to be certain that they understand?
What's going on?
Yeah.
I mean, are you signing while you're speaking to everybody?
Are you handing them a written version
of the ritual?
Maybe you have to, right?
Right.
We don't typically do that. We don't usually let anyone other than who's officiating see the ritual on paper because we don't want people focused on the paper.
Right.
But if someone is deaf, you better give them that damn paper.
Something.
Yeah. Absolutely. You've got to have a discussion with that individual. So I do think that's important. And if you're working solo, it's even more critical. Again, if you don't know what the word is or what you're saying, question everything. I mean, good grief. How many different, high magic spells have we seen? Things from the Lama, Aleister Crowley's works.
What was the first book when you walked in there for your first class and I gave you a list of books and what was one of the books I told you is the best to ever have, and I pull out a dictionary?
Yeah, of course.
Every witch should have a dictionary.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we do now with Google, but yeah. But I mean, yes. We should understand. If we don't understand, why are we proceeding? There's something inherent about that. And I think that too often in religious settings, people are willing to just go, oh, okay, that's just what it is. No, it's not. Not for us.
No.
Pagans don't work that way.
No, because from my understanding, we're supposed to have a reason for everything we do.
Well, I mean, every religion does, but the difference is some religions are more secretive about certain things. And I mean, like, look, I mean, there is a very good reason why so many religions look at Christianity and call, their people sheep and, you know, the flock and all of that. And we don't mean it in a nice way.
No.
Because a lot of those people don't know what the hell they're saying or talking about when they're, stand here, sit down here, say this phrase, repeat after this, do that. Why? If I don't know why, I'm standing there.
Exactly.
I'm not doing a damn thing.
Why? What was the point?
Yeah, I remember this is growing up as a kid. Like, it was, it wasn't uncommon to have somebody's parents take you to a different church or something. Like if you had a sleepover, okay, well, we go to church on Sunday, so you might be coming along. Okay. And I remember having a couple of friends who didn't know communion. They didn't understand. And my mother just going, that's okay, honey. You just sit out. You just watch.
Right.
And that made more sense than anything. But yet I remember talking to people later in life who were like, yeah, I got on this line and all of a sudden they gave me a cracker and I had no idea what to do. I'm like, oh, and in my soul, my renounced Catholic soul was still cringing, going, you did what? You had no idea what you were doing, but you took Holy Communion? Why did you do that?
Oh, God. No, that just made me think of Mrs. Maisel when Abe went to the Catholic Church and now he's got his wafer. I didn't know what to do with it.
That's the same thing. I forgot about that, but that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, that happens. And sometimes, people are just like, oh, I'm going to go with the flow. I don't really know what's going on here. No!
Well, again, they've proven this over and over again. There was an experiment that the CIA or somebody did where they took 12 people and put them in a room.
Yeah.
And only one person was actually the test person. Everybody else was...
Oh, they were in on it.
Were in on it.
Yeah.
So they would show a picture of a triangle, and they go, it's a square. And they would ask all 11 people. By the time it got to that one guy, he would go, yeah, it's a square.
To you, okay, now we get to show our pop culture age. There is a episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where Picard is kidnapped. It's the lights episode.
So,
there are four lights. And he's just, because they were trying to convince him, they were trying to brainwash him into believing that there were less lights or whatever it was. And he just kept screaming, there are 4 lights.
My hope is most witches would be that one person to go, no,
Yeah.
It's a triangle.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We are a little bit too strong in those convictions, but for reason, purpose. I mean, again, it is all about understanding and that connection. And I think until you have been given the opportunity to observe and then ask questions and come to an understanding of your own, participation is unwise.
Yeah.
No matter what it is. But yeah, language is, I mean, yeah, words absolutely have a huge place in religion, but if you don't understand them, whee.
And I'm sorry if you put too much emphasis on there. Is somebody going to start going around? What's the most powerful language there is?
Mm-hmm. Hey, look, again, going back to my childhood, it was very common for me to attend Latin Mass. And I think back on that now and I go, what the fuck is the Catholic Church thinking? How many people in that Mass actually know what's going on? 3? 4?
Maybe.
My mother, who is Italian and who speaks Italian fluently, was raised in Latin Mass. Latin and Italian are not that far off from one another. It's a derivative of. She understood it. And I remember looking at her going, you know what they're saying? And she was like, yeah, I know exactly what's going on. But she was one of only a very small handful of people who could do that. And now I think about it and I go, and you wonder why your numbers are dwindling? If people don't know what's happening in your service.
Well, if they have no meaning behind doing it, if they have no drive to get there.
That's my point. At what point does a modern society go, I don't even know what's going on here. Why am I wasting my time?
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Ready for some coffee?
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening. Join us next week for another episode. Pagan Coffee Talk is brought to you by Life Temple and Seminary. Please visit us at lifetempleseminary.org for more information, as well as links to our social media: Facebook, Discord, Twitter, YouTube, and Reddit.
We travel down this trodden path, a maze of stone and mire. Just hold my hand as we pass by a sea of blazing pyres. And so it is the end of our days, so walk with me till morning breaks. And so it is the end of our days, so walk